Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the TSS Relentless and watched the alien ship tumble through space. Her face showed nothing. No fear, no excitement, no concern, just calm focus. Just a mind working through a problem. Around her, her crew moved with quiet efficiency. No one shouted. No one panicked. They had trained for moments like this 1,000 times. They knew what to do. Humans always knew what to do. "Report," Vasquez said. Her voice was soft but carried across the entire bridge. Lieutenant Chun looked up from his console. "Single life sign, Commander. The computer says it is a Korvax, reptilian species from the outer sectors. The ship is completely dead. No power, no weapons, no shields. It looks like someone shot it full of holes before it crossed into our space. And our friends outside?" Chun's face twisted with something between amusement and contempt. 3 Grell Hunter-class vessels. They are holding position just outside our territory. They have not moved a single meter since the Korvax crossed the border. Vasquez raised one eyebrow. It was the only emotion she allowed herself to show. "Grell bounty hunters turned tail at the sight of us?" "It appears so, Commander. Interesting." Vasquez turned to look at the main screen. The Grell ships were visible in the distance. Predator vessels. Sharp and angular and designed to terrify. They looked dangerous. They looked powerful. And they were sitting at the border like frightened children who were too scared to step over a line drawn in the dirt. "They are requesting communication," Chan added. "They want to explain that they were chasing a dangerous criminal. They say we should hand him over for the good of everyone." "Do they now?" Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Bring the Korvax aboard. Full medical treatment. Full security detail. Put him in the medical bay and treat his wounds. And the Grell, Commander? Tell them they can file an extradition request through proper diplomatic channels. If they do not like that answer, they are welcome to cross the border and discuss it with us in person." A ripple of dark amusement passed through the bridge. Every crew member knew what that invitation meant. Every crew member knew the Grell would never accept it. They were right. Within minutes, the Grell ships turned and flew away into the darkness. They did not send another message. They did not make any threats. They simply left, like animals retreating from a larger predator's territory. Vasquez watched them go with cold satisfaction. Then she turned her attention to more important matters. Keth woke up slowly. His head hurt. His body ached. His mouth was dry, but he was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he was still alive. He opened his eyes and found himself in a strange room. The walls were white. The air smelled clean. Soft lights glowed above him. Strange machines hummed quietly around his bed, displaying information he could not understand. He was not in chains. He was not in a cell. He was in a bed. A comfortable bed with clean sheets and soft pillows. This made no sense. Then he saw the human. She sat in a chair across from him. Not behind a barrier. Not wearing armor. Not holding a weapon. Just sitting there, watching him with curious brown eyes. She had dark skin and black hair pulled back from her face. She wore simple white clothes. She looked peaceful. She looked kind. This made even less sense. "You are awake," she said. Her words came through a translator device, rendered in perfect Korvax. "Good. I was starting to worry. You lost a lot of blood." Keth tried to speak. His throat was too dry. The human leaned forward and held a cup of water to his lips. He drank without thinking. The water was cool and clean. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. "My name is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo," the human said. "You are on the TSS Relentless. You are safe." "Safe?" Kef laughed. The sound came out broken and bitter. I am in human space. I have heard the stories about your kind. Stories? Your species hunted the giant animals of your world until none were left. You took wolves and made them love you. You eat chemical poison for pleasure. You jump out of flying machines for fun. You cut open your own bodies and sew them back together. Keth shook his head. You are monsters. Everyone knows this. Dr. Okonkwo listened to this speech without anger, without offense. When he finished, she simply smiled. All of that is true, she said. Every single word. We did all of those things. We still do most of them. Keth felt his scales go pale. But we do not hurt people who ask for help. The doctor leaned forward. Her eyes were serious now, intense. Your transmission reached us. The commander saw everything you sent. The evidence, the files, the footage of those trafficking operations. She paused. Keth felt his heart beating faster. If what you sent us is real, Dr. Okonkwo continued, then you are not a criminal. You are a witness. You are someone who saw evil and tried to stop it. And humans protect witnesses. It is what we do. Keth could not speak. He could not move. He could only stare at this strange creature who was saying impossible things. The commander has already sent your evidence to Fleet Command, the doctor said. People much more important than me are looking at it right now. If it is verified, there will be investigations. There will be consequences. The syndicate will not escape justice. Justice. Keth repeated the word like it was foreign, like he had never heard it before. The syndicate is powerful. They control half the outer sectors. They own governments. They buy judges. There is no justice for people like them. Dr. Okonkwo smiled again. This time, there was something fierce in it. Something hard. They have never dealt with humans before, she said. We do things differently. Where we come from, power does not protect you from justice. Nothing protects you from justice. It finds everyone eventually. She stood up and walked toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back at him. Rest now. Heal. You are safe here. No one will hurt you. No one will take you away. You have my word. She left. The door closed softly behind her. Keth lay in his bed and stared at the white ceiling. His wounds were bandaged. His pain was fading. Somewhere on this ship, powerful beings were looking at his evidence, taking it seriously, planning to act on it. For the first time in 6 cycles, Keth felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. God, it was terrifying. It was wonderful. It felt like coming back to life after being dead for a very long time. The humans had not killed him. They had not tortured him. They had not handed him back to the hunters. They'd helped him. Maybe the stories were wrong. Or maybe they were right, but they had missed something important. Something that changed everything. Keth closed his eyes and let sleep take him. For the first time in 6 cycles, his dreams were not nightmares. He dreamed of blue and green planets, of strange creatures who hunted wolves and made them love them, of a galaxy where the powerful could not escape justice. He dreamed of hope. Keth Valorn had been running for 6 standard cycles. His body was tired. His mind was broken. His small stolen shuttle was falling apart around him. But he could not stop. The Grell bounty hunters behind him would never let him stop. 3 ships followed him through the darkness of space. 7 hunters in total. Each one wanted the 50,000 credits that the syndicate had placed on his head. Each one dreamed of being the one to drag him back in chains. His crime was simple. He had stolen something. Not money. Not weapons. Just data. Just evidence. Files that proved the syndicate was taking living, thinking beings from their homes and selling them to the fighting pits of Corvin 9. Slaves. That was what they were making. Slaves who fought and died for the entertainment of the rich and powerful. Kath had worked for the syndicate for 12 years. He had seen many bad things. He had looked away many times. But when he saw the children in those cages, something inside him broke. Small ones, young ones, crying for parents they would never see again. That night, he copied everything he could find onto a data chip and ran. Now, he was paying the price. Another plasma bolt hit his ship. The whole vessel shook like a dying animal. Red lights flashed everywhere. Warning sounds filled the small cockpit. His shields were failing. His engine was leaking fuel. One more hit, and he would be dead. Kath looked at his navigation screen with desperate eyes. He needed somewhere to go, somewhere to hide. But there was nothing out here. Just empty space and distant stars and death closing in behind him. Then his computer made a sound. A soft chime. A boarder ahead. Someone had claimed this space. His computer could not identify who. The territory was not marked on syndicate maps. It was unknown, uncharted. But then a symbol appeared on his screen. A blue and green planet. A word in an alien language. His translator worked for a moment, then showed him the meaning. Terra, Earth, human space. Kath felt his heart stop in his chest. His scales went pale with fear. His hands began to shake on the controls. No, anywhere but there. Every species in the galaxy knew the stories about humans. They came from a death world, a planet that tried to kill them every single day. Their home was full of poison and predators and disasters. And somehow, impossibly, they had survived. They had not just survived. They had conquered. They had spread across the stars like a fire that could not be stopped. The story said humans were persistence hunters. They did not need to be faster than their prey. They just needed to keep following, keep walking, keep running, hour after hour, day after day, until their prey collapsed from exhaustion and fear, until there was nowhere left to run. The story said humans had fought a war against 3 empires at the same time. The collective had thought they would crush these young newcomers easily. They had been wrong. So very wrong. The humans had won. They had won against impossible odds, and they had not even seemed surprised by their victory. The story said humans bonded with wolves and made them into pets. They ate poison for fun. They jumped out of flying machines with nothing but cloth to slow their fall. They cut open their own bodies to fix what was broken inside. They were insane. They were terrifying. They were unlike anything else in the galaxy. Behind him, his communication system crackled to life. The Grell lead ship was hailing him. Valoran. The voice of the hunter commander was harsh and cold. This is your last chance. Surrender now. Stop your ship and let us take you. We will make it quick. We will make it painless. You have my word. Kath said nothing. His eyes stayed fixed on the border ahead. Do you hear me, fugitive? Do you see where you are going? The commander's voice changed. Something new crept into it. Something that sounded almost like fear. Cross that border and you are on your own. We are not following you in there. No bounty is worth going into human space. Still, Kath did not respond. His hand moved toward the engine controls. Fine. The commander's voice was angry now. Frustrated. Your funeral, Valoran. Go and die with the Deathworlders. See if we care. Kath pushed the throttle forward. His damaged engine screamed in protest. The ship lurched and groaned. But it moved. It crossed the invisible line in the darkness of space. Behind him, something amazing happened. The 3 Grell ships stopped. They did not slow down. They simply stopped, like they had hit a wall. Like prey animals who had suddenly smelled a greater predator nearby. For a long moment, nothing happened. Keth drifted forward into human territory. The Grell hunters stayed where they were, watching, waiting. Then they turned around and flew away. Keth could not believe what he was seeing. 7 of the most dangerous hunters in the sector. Killers who had tracked him across dozens of systems. They had just given up. They had let him go rather than follow him into human space. What kind of beings were these humans that even Grell bounty hunters were afraid to enter their territory? Keth did not have time to think about the answer. Sirens began to blare inside his ship. His console lit up with words in an alien language, harsh, sharp, demanding. His translator struggled for a moment, then showed him the meaning. Attention. You have entered Terran-protected space. Identify yourself. Immediately. State your purpose. Non-compliance will result in interception. This is your only warning. Keth stared at the words. His damaged ship drifted through the dark. Blood from a wound on his head dripped down his face. His oxygen was running low. His shields were gone. His weapons were useless. He had 2 choices. He could stay silent and wait for the humans to come for him. Or he could tell them everything and hope they were not as terrifying as the story said. He made his choice. With shaking hands, Keth opened the communication channel. He transmitted his name, his species, his crime. He sent them the data chip's contents, all the evidence of the Syndicate's evil, all the proof of what they had done to those children. And then he added one more thing. A single word. A plea. A prayer. Help. His engines died. His lights went dark. His ship began to tumble slowly through the void, spinning like a leaf falling from a tree. Keth sat alone in the darkness, surrounded by silence, and waited to discover his fate. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was a light in the distance. Something large, something powerful, something coming toward him at incredible speed. The humans had received his message. They were coming. Syndicate Lord Marek Thol received the news in his private chambers. The room was large and dark and full of expensive things stolen from 100 different worlds. He sat in a chair made of rare wood and held a glass of wine that cost more than most beings earned in a year. His aide stood before him, trembling slightly. Bringing bad news to Lord Thol was dangerous work. Many aides had not survived the experience. Say that again, Thol commanded. His voice was cold and sharp like a blade. The humans have him, my lord. The aide kept his eyes on the floor. Valoran crossed into their territory. The Grell hunters refused to follow. The humans picked him up and took him to one of their ships. And the evidence? They have that too, my lord. Valoran transmitted everything before his ship lost power. Lord Thol was silent for a long moment. His 4 eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. The wineglass in his hand began to crack under the pressure of his grip. Then we retrieve both, he said at last. Send the 3rd Fleet to the border. Demand extradition. Tell the humans this is not a request. The aide hesitated. This was the moment many aides had died. My lord, he said carefully, it is human space. The stories say, I know what the stories say. Lord Thol's voice cut like a knife. Death world. Persistence hunters. Dangerous warriors. I have heard all of it before. I do not care. He stood up. He was tall and thin and radiated power like a dark star. The humans are a young species, barely 3 centuries among the stars. They are children playing at Empire. They need to learn that the Syndicate does not make requests. We make demands. They will hand over Valoran and the evidence, or they will face consequences they cannot imagine. Yes, my lord. The aide bowed low. I will give the order at once. Lord Thol watched him go with cold satisfaction. The humans thought they were special. The humans thought they were frightening. Soon they would learn the truth. The Syndicate had crushed empires far older and stronger than theirs. One more would make no difference. What Lord Thol did not know was that humans had not survived their death world by being cautious. They had survived by being stubborn, by refusing to give up, by fighting against impossible odds and winning through sheer determination. He was about to learn this lesson the hard way. 48 hours later, the Syndicate Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory. 42 warships in perfect formation. Heavy cruisers and destroyers and battleships bristling with weapons. It was an overwhelming show of force. It was enough firepower to conquer most species in the known galaxy. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the TSS unconquered and studied the enemy formation with calm eyes. His face showed no fear. His hands did not shake. He looked at the massive fleet before him, the way a man might look at a puzzle to be solved dot around him. His crew worked with quiet efficiency. No panic, no shouting. Just focus. Just preparation. "They are hailing us, Admiral," his communications officer reported. "Put them through." The main screen flickered. A Syndicate commander appeared, dressed in ceremonial armor, covered with medals and symbols of rank. His name was Rex. He looked proud. He looked confident. He looked like someone who had never lost a fight in his entire life. "Human vessels," Rex said. His voice dripped with contempt. "I am Fleet Commander Rex of the Syndicate Third Fleet. You are holding a criminal named Keth Valorn and certain stolen property that belongs to us. You will surrender both immediately." Admiral Chun said nothing. He simply waited. "This is not a negotiation," Rex continued. "This is a demand. Failure to comply will result in military action. You have 1 hour to respond." Admiral Chun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft and calm. "Commander Rex, I want you to understand something. In human history, we have a saying. If you want peace, prepare for war. Do you know what that means?" Rex sneered. His confidence was absolute. "It means you are wise enough to fear us." "No." Admiral Chun shook his head slowly. "It means we have been preparing for war since before we knew you existed. It means we never stop preparing. It means that when someone threatens us, we do not panic. We simply execute the plans we already made." He gestured to his tactical officer. The main screen split. Half showed Commander Rex's face. The other half showed a tactical display of the space around them. New contacts were appearing. Human ships emerging from behind asteroids. Human ships dropping out of hyperspace. Human ships decloaking from hidden positions where they had been waiting silently for hours. Not 12 ships. Not 20. Not even 40. 107 human warships surrounded the Syndicate fleet in a perfect sphere. "Commander." Rex's confidence finally cracked. His eyes went wide. His jaw fell open. He had been so certain of his power. He had been so sure of his victory. Now he was looking at death from every direction. "You brought 42 ships to threaten us," Admiral Chun said. His voice was still soft, still calm. "We brought 107 to make a point. We were ready for you before you even left your territory. We knew you would come. We knew exactly what you would do." "This is impossible," Rex stammered. "Our intelligence said you had only a dozen ships in this sector. Your intelligence was wrong. Your intelligence has always been wrong about us." Admiral Chun leaned forward. "Now listen carefully, Commander. This Korvax named Valoran came to our space and asked for our help. Under human law, he is entitled to asylum. He is entitled to a hearing. He is entitled to protection. He is a criminal. That is for a court to decide. Not you, not the Syndicate. If you want him, you can submit an extradition request through proper diplomatic channels. If your evidence is strong enough, maybe he will be returned to you. That is how civilized beings do things. Rex's face twisted with rage. You cannot do this. We are the Syndicate. We control half the outer sectors. You are guests in our space, Admiral Chung interrupted. His voice was harder now, cold as iron. And guests do not make demands. They ask politely. They follow the rules of the house they have entered. He paused. Let the words sink in. I will tell you what I told your bounty hunters, Commander. If you do not like our answer, you can try to take what you want by force. I promise you, we will not make it easy. We will make it expensive. More expensive than you can imagine. Is that a threat, human? It is a fact. Admiral Chun smiled. It was not a friendly smile. We do not give up people who ask for our help. Not to threats. Not to fleets. Not to anyone. It is who we are. It is what we do. It is the one thing about us that will never, ever change. Silence fell over the communication channel. Commander Vrex stared at the tactical display. 107 human ships. All weapons armed. All shields raised. All crews ready to fight and die for a stranger they had never met. It made no sense. It was not how the galaxy worked. The strong took what they wanted. The weak gave what was demanded. That was the natural order of things. But the humans did not seem to know this. Or maybe they knew and simply did not care. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Commander Vrex gave an order. His voice was quiet and defeated. The Syndicate Third Fleet began to withdraw. 42 warships turned and flew away from human space. They did not fire a single shot. They did not make any more demands. They simply left. Admiral Chun watched them go with calm satisfaction. Behind him, his crew let out a breath they had been holding. The crisis was over. The Syndicate had backed down. The fugitive named Valoran was still safe. Sir, the communications officer said, should we send a message? Claim victory? Admiral Chun shook his head. No need. They got the message. The whole galaxy will get the message soon enough. He turned and walked off the bridge. There was work to do. Evidence to verify. Justice to prepare. The humans had made their point. Now it was time to follow through. The Galactic Council had existed for 10,000 years. It had seen empires rise and fall. It had witnessed wars that killed billions. It had watched species go extinct and new ones take their place among the stars. But it had never seen anything like this. A human courtroom. Not a council of elders deciding fate in secret. Not a tribunal of powerful beings trading favors behind closed doors. An actual trial, open to everyone, broadcast across 1,000 worlds. Every species in the galaxy could watch if they wanted, and they did want. Oh, how they wanted. The courtroom was large and bright and filled with beings of every shape and size. Representatives from dozens of species sat in the gallery, watching with wide eyes and open mouths. They had come expecting entertainment. They had found something far more strange. At the center of everything sat Keth Valoran. He looked different now, healthier, stronger. The wounds on his body had healed. The fear in his eyes had faded. He wore simple clothes provided by his human hosts. He sat straight and tall and faced his accusers without flinching. On one side of the room sat the Syndicate's lawyers. A team of 12. The best money could buy. They had won 1,000 cases before this one. They had never lost. They were confident and smiling and certain of victory. On the other side sat Keth's defenders. 2 human lawyers. A man and a woman. They had volunteered for this case. No one had paid them. No one had forced them. They had simply heard the story and decided to help. The judge was also human. an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Justice Margaret Chun. She had served on courts for 40 years. She was famous for being fair. She was even more famous for being impossible to bribe or threaten. The trial began. The syndicate's lead lawyer stood first. His name was Vorak. He was tall and thin and had a voice like smooth oil. "Honorable Justice," he said, "we are here today because of a simple crime. The being known as Keth Valaran was employed by legitimate syndicate businesses. He violated his employment contract. He stole proprietary data. He fled justice. The facts are not in dispute." He smiled at the gallery. Confident, charming. "We ask only that he be returned to syndicate space to face the consequences of his actions. This is not complicated. This is not controversial. This is simply justice." Justice Chun nodded. "Thank you. The defense may respond." The female human lawyer stood. Her name was Maria Santos. She was short and fierce and looked at Vorak like he was something unpleasant she had found on her shoe. "Honorable Justice," she said, "the prosecution is right about one thing. The facts are not in dispute. Keth Valaran stole data. He violated his contract. He ran away. All of this is true." She paused. Let the words hang in the air. "But we ask a simple question. What was in that data? What did he steal? What was so important that the syndicate sent bounty hunters across the galaxy to retrieve it?" She walked to a screen and pressed a button. Images appeared. Shipping records. Communication logs. Financial transfers. This data shows the syndicate buying and selling living beings. Sapient species. Thinking, feeling people. Families torn apart. Children ripped from their parents. All sold to fighting pits where they were forced to kill each other for entertainment. More images. Video footage now. Cages full of terrified beings. Children crying in the dark. Bodies being dragged away after matches. The gallery went silent. Some species looked away. Others stared with horror. The syndicate's lawyers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Keth Valaran saw this," Maria continued. "He worked for the syndicate for 12 years. He saw many terrible things. He looked away many times. But when he saw the children, he could not look away anymore. He stole this evidence and ran because it was the only way to expose the truth." She turned to face the judge directly. "The prosecution calls him a thief. We do not dispute this. But we ask, what is the greater crime? Stealing evidence of evil? Or committing the evil itself?" The trial continued for 3 days. The syndicate's lawyers tried everything. They attacked Keth's character. They questioned the evidence. They made procedural objections. They hinted at diplomatic consequences if the court ruled against them. None of it worked. The evidence was too strong. The footage was too clear. The suffering was too real. Every time the syndicate's lawyers made an argument, the human lawyers had an answer. Every lie was exposed. Every excuse was destroyed. On the 3rd day, the prosecution made its final statement. "This court has no authority over syndicate affairs," Vorak declared. "What happens in our space is our business. You cannot judge us by your laws." Justice Chun looked at him with cold eyes. "This court has authority over crimes against sapient beings. Slavery is a crime against sapient beings. Torture is a crime against sapient beings. The murder of children is a crime against sapient beings. These laws apply everywhere, to everyone, without exception." The syndicate lawyer opened his mouth to argue. Justice Chun raised her hand. "The prosecution has made its case. The defense has made its case. This court will now deliberate." She stood and walked out of the room. The gallery buzzed with whispered conversation. No one knew what would happen next. No one could predict what the humans would decide. The verdict came 3 hours later. Justice Chun returned to her seat. The courtroom fell silent. Every eye was fixed on her. Every breath was held. This court finds the defendant, HFY Lauren, not guilty on all charges, she announced. Her voice was clear and strong. The evidence shows that he acted to expose crimes against sapient beings. His actions were justified. His conscience was clear. The gallery erupted. Some cheered. Others shouted in anger. The syndicate's lawyers looked like they had been struck by lightning. Justice Chun was not finished. Furthermore, this court finds that the evidence presented here reveals systematic crimes against sapient beings by syndicate entities. This evidence will be forwarded to the Galactic Council for investigation. Appropriate actions will be recommended. She looked directly at the syndicate's lawyers. Her eyes were hard as stone. Let me be clear. This court does not care how powerful you are. This court does not care how much money you have. This court does not care how many threats you make. Justice applies to everyone, without exception. Remember that the next time you consider buying and selling living beings. She struck her gavel once. The sound echoed through the room like thunder. Court is adjourned. The room exploded into chaos. But Keth barely noticed. He sat in his chair and stared at the ceiling and felt tears running down his scales. Not guilty. He was not guilty. The humans had believed him. The humans had protected him. The humans had given him something he had never expected to receive. Justice. Maria Santos appeared beside him. She was smiling, truly smiling. You did it, she said. You exposed them. The whole galaxy knows the truth now. We did it, Keth corrected. I could not have done this alone. Maria shrugged. That is what we do. We help people who need help. We fight for people who cannot fight alone. It is nothing special. It is just who we are. Keth looked at her with wonder. Just who we are. These humans said that like it was nothing. Like protecting strangers and fighting evil and pursuing justice were normal things. Easy things? Things everyone did. But they were not normal. They were not easy. In the rest of the galaxy, the powerful crushed the weak. That was how things worked. That was how things had always worked, until the humans came along and decided to do things differently. Keth stood up. His legs were shaking. His heart was pounding. But he was free. He was safe. And somewhere in the galaxy, children who would have been sold to fighting pits were now being rescued because of what he had done. It was enough. It was more than enough. Thank you, he said to Maria. For everything. She nodded. Welcome to human space, HFY Lauren. I think you are going to like it here. The story spread across the stars like fire through dry grass. In cantinas and council chambers. In refugee camps and royal courts. In schools and ships and hidden places where beings gathered to share news. Everyone talked about the fugitive and the humans who protected him. Some versions of the story grew wild and strange. Humans became 12 feet tall in the telling. They could survive in the vacuum of space. They could rip starship hulls apart with their bare hands. They drank poison like water and laughed at wounds that would kill any other species. Other versions were quieter, more careful. They talked about the doctor who treated a stranger's wounds without asking for payment. The admiral who faced down a fleet rather than surrender a refugee. The lawyers who fought for justice because it was the right thing to do. The judge who could not be bought or frightened. Both versions carried the same message. Do not cross into human space unless you are prepared for what you will find. There, the syndicate learned this lesson hardest. Within a year of the trial, their trafficking operations were completely destroyed. Coalition forces raided their bases. Their financial networks were exposed and shut down. 3 syndicate lords were arrested and faced trials of their own. Lord Marix, Thule himself, was captured while trying to flee to the outer reaches of the galaxy. He spent the rest of his life in a prison cell, surrounded by the same kind of cages he had once used to hold his victims. Justice, the humans said. Justice for everyone. Keth Valarum watched all of this from his small apartment on Terra. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds drifting across a bright sky. It was hard to believe such a lovely world had produced such terrifying people. He had been given permanent asylum, a home, a new life. He worked now as a translator, helping other refugees understand human laws and customs. It was good work, meaningful work, work that let him help others the way he had been helped. One evening, there was a knock at his door. Keth opened it and found Dr. Sarah Okonkwo standing there. She held a bottle of amber liquid and wore a smile on her face. "Human tradition," she said, walking past him into his small living room. "When something good happens, you celebrate. Thought you might want company." Keth watched her settle onto his couch. It had been 5 years since she treated his wounds on the Relentless. They had become friends in that time. She visited often. They talked about everything and nothing. "I saw the news," she said, pouring 2 glasses. "Another syndicate operation shut down. More victims freed. They say this is the biggest humanitarian success in galactic history. All because I stole some files." Keth shook his head. "I still cannot believe it." "Believe it. You started something that changed the galaxy." Sarah raised her glass. "To doing the right thing." Keth raised his own glass. The liquid inside was whiskey. He had learned to like it over the years. It burned going down, but it warmed him from the inside. "I still do not understand," he said after a long silence. "Why did you help me? I was nothing. A fugitive. A stranger. Helping me almost started a war with the syndicate. You could have just handed me over. It would have been easier." Sarah considered the question. She looked out the window at the city lights of New Geneva, thinking carefully about her answer. "Because you asked," she said finally, "and because it was right. That is kind of our whole thing, honestly. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the oldest or the most advanced. We are just stubborn about things that matter. Stubborn." Keth repeated the word. "That is one way to describe it." Sarah laughed. "Fair point. We are completely unreasonable. We will die for a stranger. We will start wars over principles. We will fight against impossible odds just because giving up feels wrong." She shrugged. "It does not always make sense, but it is who we are." Keth thought about this for a long time. He thought about the Grell bounty hunters who had stopped at the border rather than follow him. He thought about the syndicate fleet that had turned around rather than fight. He thought about all the powerful beings who had backed down when faced with human stubbornness. "You know what I think?" he said at last. "The galaxy was afraid of the wrong thing. They thought humans were dangerous because of your strength, your weapons, your death world history. And what do you think now? I think you are dangerous because of your heart." Keth touched his chest. "You care about things. About justice. About protecting the weak. About doing what is right even when it costs you everything. That is what makes you terrifying. You cannot be predicted. You cannot be bought. You cannot be scared." He raised his glass again. "To humans, the galaxy's most terrifying optimists." Sarah clinked her glass against his. Her eyes were bright with emotion. "I like that," she said. "Terrifying optimists. I might have to steal that." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, Beings of 100 species were telling stories about humans. Some were scared. Some were curious. Some were making plans to ask for help themselves. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, carefully, but changing nonetheless. 10 years after his trial, Keth Valoran stood at a podium on the steps of the Terran capital. Thousands of beings filled the plaza before him. Humans and aliens alike gathered to celebrate the anniversary of the trafficking trials, to remember what had been accomplished, to honor those who had fought for justice. Keth was older now. Gray touched his scales. Lines marked his face, but his eyes were bright and his voice was strong. "I came to human space expecting to die," he told the crowd. "I had heard all the stories. Death worlders, persistence predators, a species too stubborn to know when they were beaten." He paused. Let the words settle. All of that was true. Every single story. Every single warning. But what the stories missed, what the galaxy is still learning, is that humans do not just fight for themselves. They fight for anyone who asks. Anyone who needs help. Anyone trying to do the right thing. He looked out at the sea of faces. So many species now, drawn to human space because it was safe. Because here, the powerful could not simply crush the weak. The bounty hunters stopped at the border because they were afraid, Keth said. The syndicate fleet turned around because they were afraid. Everyone was afraid of humans. But they were afraid of the wrong thing. He smiled. A Korvax expression that had taken him years to learn. They thought humans were dangerous because of their strength, their weapons, their stubborn refusal to give up. He shook his head. Humans are dangerous because of their heart, because they believe in things, because they care, because they will move heaven and earth to protect a stranger who asks for help. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens together, celebrating not victory in war, but victory in peace. Victory in justice. Victory in doing the right thing. Far away, in a dingy spaceport bar at the edge of known space, a young Grell bounty hunter listened to the broadcast with wide eyes. His mentor sat across from him, old and scarred and missing one eye. "So that is the fugitive," the young one said. "The one who started all this. That is him." The old hunter drained his drink. "The one we let go. The one smart enough to run to human space. Was he really that dangerous?" The old hunter laughed. It was not a happy sound. Him? No, he was just a data thief. Nothing special. He leaned forward. But the humans who protected him, they were something else entirely. "What do you mean?" "I mean, there are some beings you do not hunt. Some territories you do not enter. Some borders you do not cross." The old hunter stood and tossed credits on the bar. Human space is all three. Learn that lesson now or learn it the hard way. Your choice. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. And if someone asks you to chase a mark into human territory, say no. Walk away. Find another job. Because no bounty is worth what will happen to you if you cross that line. He disappeared into the night. The young hunter sat alone with his drink, thinking about everything he had heard. Thinking about the stories. Thinking about the terrifying optimists who protected strangers and fought for justice and never, ever gave up. Somewhere out there, humans were changing the galaxy. One rescued refugee at a time. One act of kindness at a time. One stubborn stand for justice at a time. And the rest of the galaxy was slowly learning to follow their example. Or learning to stay out of their way. Either way, the message was clear. Some borders you simply did not cross.